Welcome back to Brilliant Fools. My name is Adam Green, and I, 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 the eyes have, okay, puns are horrible, and these puns are terrible. I actually like puns a lot because I like the way that people react to them, but you know who else like puns? People operating in that I style of behavior. They're funny and they're fun. And today we're talking about the eyes. The eyes have it. It is the I and the DISC, DISC, the four broad categories of human behavior. And we're going to get a little bit deeper, a little more technical in that aspect of what the eyes are here and how they behave, how they operate, different things like that. So looking at it, first of all, what does I stand for? I stands for nothing really. It's honestly, the DISC is just a nice little acronym that's easy to understand, easy to know what it says, DISC, and easy to remember. So that's why it's DISC. But the I itself is not actually it doesn't technically stand for anything, but you can think of different words like influential and inspiring. Sometimes impulsive behavior can be thought of as an I style behavior, but typically what's going to characterize an I style personality is going to be someone who likes to have a lot of fun. They enjoy themselves. They really do enjoy themselves. And they enjoy other people. They enjoy other people a lot. So the first question that I tend to have in that kind of a situation is, if you enjoy other people a lot, does that mean obviously you're extroverted, right? Can be, yes. And oftentimes, yes, that is the case. And oftentimes extroverted people are very high in this I style of behavior. Behaviors like you've never met a stranger, right? Everybody's your friend. You walk into a room, you can talk to anybody in that room, not just talk to them, but instantly have some sort of a connection, find some sort of a common ground. You've always got questions that you know how to ask, that sort of a situation. Those are I style behaviors. You enjoy people just almost naturally, right? Almost naturally. And you think that's not really an introverted trait. It's more of an extroverted trait. To an extent. An I-style behavior is also going to look at it and say, let's keep this party going. Let's keep moving on. Let's either keep having the conversation, find another thing to talk about or something else to do and have fun with. Just a lot of smiles, a lot of laughs, that sort of thing. Fun. That's the I-style of behavior. That is not, again, and I want to make this point, and I'm going to make this point often. That's behavior. That's not personality. It's not who you are. It's just how you're behaving at a certain point in time. And I make that point because I know, and I know from experience, people I know, even the way that I tend to be, that introverts can also display the same kind of behavior to the point that they can seem like extroverts at times, right? And even genuinely be interested in people. And a lot of times it'll maybe look more like good conversations, maybe even deeper conversations. So the topics may be different, what they're talking about, but still an I style kind of behavior, but more introverted. So maybe more introspective even, which is not necessarily thought of as an I style behavior. A lot of laughs. Man, introverts like to laugh too, you know? They like to have fun. And I've seen that for sure. Also enjoying like activities together. Not always necessarily a party, but just enjoy doing things. And that can take the form of anything from more introverted type activities, like sewing or something like that, where I know there are big sewing or crocheting parties, knitting parties, things like that that people have. Even book clubs where people are discussing things, but in a group setting. So they're enjoying each other, exhibiting I-style behavior, even from reading books, which is kind of an introverted thing, people think. But not always a party. Or it could be like active things, building stuff, hiking, going out on a boat, swimming, stuff like that, but doing things together Introverts can enjoy that too. Now, it may take more out of an introvert than an extrovert. It may not give them energy. It may take energy, but that I style of behavior isn't limited to a certain type of person. In fact, I would argue that the more we are abiding in Christ, the more those styles come out when it's necessary. And when the right time comes, we're going to be able to display those things. So let's look at a few, I guess, examples, or even, I don't know if I want to call them questions. We'll do a Q&A tomorrow on the I style of behavior. But let's just look at some of the things like, we've looked at some of the key characteristics, right, of that I style, the influential style. But how does a very influential person approach like people and problems specifically? A lot of times they're going to approach it maybe with a very creative mind on how to solve the problem, on how to approach a person, thinking of a lot of different ideas. I style can be very idea driven as well. So that can also influence people, that can inspire people, because you have possibilities, you have options. And so you can be a lot more influential that way as well. They're going to not necessarily avoid conflict, but if someone's operating deep in this I style, they can move over to the point where they're trying to find approval from people. And that finding of approval can take over the being good to someone, if that makes sense. So I may be operating out of love, but if I want your approval, I may avoid doing things that I think could harm that approval if I'm not careful about, or if I'm not aware that I'm operating deep in that I style of behavior. So how they approach people and problems, if you're operating in an I style, you're going to look for approval, which can be a very good thing, especially if you respect the person that you're talking to and you respect how they're going to approach a situation. Getting their approval can be a very good thing. If they're in leadership over you, getting their approval can be a very good thing. But then also being creative with the problems that they may face as well. Communication tends to come a little more naturally to the extroverted I style. But if I'm operating in that I style of behavior, my experience has been that communication does feel more natural. And there are almost key questions that I can ask. You can ask people about, all right, the typical, where are you from? What do you do for work? Family, what's going on? How many brothers and sisters or kids do you have? But then you can even open it up a little more than that and start digging a little bit deeper into things and continue on a conversation. If I'm operating high in the I style, I'm probably not going to get too detailed in a conversation. I'm going to keep it a little more surface, and that can be great when I have a large group of people that I need to address. Think of any celebrity or actor or anybody who's, doing signatures. You're going to keep it very surface level, but you're going to be hopefully very approachable to people. I mean, that's good for your, personal brand and when you're selling something, right? A lot of salespeople can have a lot of high I style behaviors and almost feel like it's necessary to be that way. Super smiley, super positive about everything. Yeah, this is a great thing. It's a great product. You're going to love it, et cetera, et cetera. That's not necessarily the best sales tactic. So keep that in mind. The best sales tactic is going to be what's best for the other person. So if you're in the sales kind of arena, understand that as well. If you have someone in your organization who is an I style, because if you're a business owner or manager, some business leader, right, and you have someone on your team or in your organization who you notice is a very high in their I behavior, I style of behavior. First of all, they may or may not know it. So be very aware of that and give grace for them being able to mature in that area. I do believe the more mature you are, the more you're going to even out your different styles of behaviors, and they're going to be appropriate at the appropriate time. But also give them good feedback. And that's not necessarily just approval. Yes, someone operating in a high I style will want approval. So find the areas that are good for those people and let them know what's going on, but also just make sure to address any situations that need to be addressed and address it quickly. A high I style is looking for a feedback kind of thing. And think about it, because it makes sense. If I'm operating in a high I behavior, it's easy for me to have a conversation as long as we have a conversation, right? I want some feedback. Even if I'm dominating it, even if I'm talking all the time, I want to hear back from you. A salesperson, when they're talking all the time, they want to hear back. At least they want to hear somebody say yes or agree in some way, somehow about a certain situation. So keep that in mind. And you may have to stay on a person that has that high I style. You may have to stay on them a little bit more just to keep them on task, not micromanaging, but checking in a little more often. Again, that goes back to the feedback, hitting that feedback loop. Feedback, feedback, feedback. The more you can, I guess I would say automate that. Automate is a fine word for this situation. So the more you can automate that, the better, the easier it's going to go for you. If you don't give feedback, you're going to probably lose a person like that, unless they're maturing and learning leadership from someone else outside of the organization. And then they start learning how to address themselves. It's important to note, this does tend to adjust and shift with age. There are people who stay very high I throughout their whole lives and are very extroverted and very fun-loving and all that. And that's great. Think of a Robin Williams type of person, right? And I know some other people who have done this and are this way. At the same time, most high I individuals tend to start, for lack of a better word, mellowing out as they age. And there tends to be more of that high I behavior in younger generations. Keep that in mind as you go through the workplace. And this whole generational thing, to complain that the generation coming up doesn't want to work anymore, that's been a complaint for hundreds of years, if not more. I mean, you can find newspaper articles, magazine articles that date back into at least the 1800s, if not before, that are all saying the same thing. This new generation of workers just doesn't want to work anymore. Young people don't want to work these days. It's a part of maturing, and it's a part of maturity. Have some grace, work with them, they'll get there. And if you work with them, identify who is a good worker and who's going to do well for you, you could have a strong, strong team member for a long time to come, and a strong, loyal team member. So just keeping that in mind as you're seeking these I-style behaviors, and they seem more on the impulsive side, irresponsible side. Those things can come up. So keep that in mind. As far as, let's put it this way, if they're not mature and they're exhibiting a lot of high I style behavior, they're probably going to be less introspective, less likely to take time to reflect on what's going on. So when you do give them feedback, do it at a time where they can take a little bit of time to reflect. Maybe it could be pretty soon after lunch or something like that, pretty soon after a break, maybe right before a break so they can spend a little time thinking about it. Give them that room, that space to be able to reflect and understand, because they're likely to not do it on their own. And mention that to them. Say, all right, just, take some time, or take 5 minutes right now. Just kind of think about what I said. Think about what we talked about here, and think about some creative ways to move forward. So if you have that negative feedback, feed into that creativity of somebody who's in a high I style of behavior. Now, what are some examples? What can we look at to see that, especially in the Bible? I want to look at this because you can see examples, like I mentioned, of like Robin Williams, a lot of creative types, whether it's theater types or singers or something like that, can be this high I style of behavior. But how about in Jesus? Where did we see it? Well, you see it in different areas for sure, but if you think of him with the children, he's willing to be with the children. Let the little children come to me. Don't deny them. Come on over. And He's warm, he's loving, he's friendly. Is he super high energy there? Maybe. High I style doesn't necessarily have to be super high energy, but yeah, he may have been. Think of somebody else like Barnabas, the encourager. He was not necessarily spoken of as high energy type person, but he was very encouraging. And a good, healthy I style of behavior is going to be encouraging. That in and of itself is going to be inspiring because you're others focused and people are inspired by that. David danced before the Lord, right? That's an I style of behavior. And when we are told to sing a new song to the Lord, when we are told to find our joy or our strength in the joy of the Lord, that's I style of behavior that we're exhibiting there. And we should do that because it is good and it does help us. It is healthy. Where can it go too far? Think of something like Aaron making the golden calf. I don't know if he was a high I style, but he was chosen to speak for Moses in front of Pharaoh, right? So it is very possible that he exhibited a lot of those high I style of behaviors naturally. And if he leaned too hard into them, he may have been trying to get the approval of the people while Moses was up on the mountain. And so what happens? He makes a golden calf in order to have the approval of the people. You can see that in politicians today, right? Just kind of bending over toward whatever they feel like the flavor of the day is, whether they truly believe it or not, whether they believed it last week or not. And then they'll bend over because they think they'll get the approval that way. That's an unhealthy I style of behavior. And Peter denying Jesus could be some of the same thing. I mean, the servant girl, the people that were around the fire as Jesus is on trial and Peter denies him. Is he afraid of disapproval in that situation? He could be. Peter, remember, showed a lot of impulsive behavior as well, right? In faith, he jumps out onto the water when he sees Jesus walking on water. When Jesus is on shore after the resurrection, he jumps out of the boat. With all his clothes on, he just jumps out of the boat into the water and gets to shore as quickly as he can. So he has this impulsive style. So it is likely that he was looking for approval. But if you're looking for like the politician route, look at Pilate. When he was still seeking the approval of the people, releasing somebody to the crowd, and they chose Barabbas instead of Jesus. So he releases him and then he doesn't condemn Jesus, but he hands him over to the Jewish leaders at the time. So that can be some negative styles of I style behavior. The point is this. I would bring this out as the warning, the caution of the I style of behavior. It's Proverbs 29:25. The fear of man brings a snare, but he who trusts in the Lord will be exalted. That fear of man is not necessarily like an afraid kind of fear. It just doesn't necessarily feel that way in the moment. Sometimes it's just a desire for the approval of man is a fear of man over the fear of God. Or as it's put in the New Testament, do your work as to the Lord, not as to men, right? Because when we're doing it as to men, when we're trying to get approval from the people around us, and we can train our employees to be this way too, can't we? I think this happens a lot where we say, do it because I said so. I can train my kids to do that same thing. Be afraid of me. Don't do it. And I don't want them to be afraid of me. I want them to have the good behavior, 100%. I know it's healthy for them. I know it's good for them. It's good for the people around them. But I want them to do it because of who God is and who they are in Christ. And because he's the standard, and that is the best way to live. That is the healthiest way to live. That's the most joyful way to live, the most peaceful way to live. And because of that, it sets you up for success. So that's really why I want to drive that behavior. That's really what I want my feedback to my employees or my children or wherever I'm applying this. That's where I want my feedback to go. As I'm leading them, as I'm leading a high I style individual, I want it to be that you don't do this because of approval from me or approval from someone else. You do this because of who God is. And because we know who he is, he's revealed his character in his word. And we know that that is the most fulfilling, most joyful, most successful way to live. So that's what we're going to model, and that's what we're going to live. For yourself, if I had a call to action to end this on, it would be abide in Christ. Abide in Christ and these I style of behavior, whether you're introverted or extroverted, natural, or it doesn't come as natural to you. And for most people, it doesn't come as naturally. But this style of behavior will display itself in your actions, and it will display itself even more naturally as you go and do. But remember that the joy of the Lord is your strength. So our happiness in him is our strength to then go out and share that same happiness, that same joy with others. And I would encourage you to do that. I hope this has been helpful. Come back tomorrow for the Q&A, and we'll just kind of pop around on a few different things about what we might see. We'll get a little bit more into some of the things that we talked about today. And until next time, thanks.